Hi, everyone. Welcome to the National Parent Union's nightly restorative check-in. I'm Dr. Anjali Lafarie, and I am here in Arizona in this beautiful Sonoran Desert on O'odham land. It's Friday, November 13th. I always have to comment about the date. Actually, today I don't. So for whatever reason, except that I guess I should acknowledge that it's Friday the 13th. And there's a lot of lore about that. I could expand on the thoughts we have about the 13th, but I won't. Okay, so because I'm anxious to get to our guests. So this is the nightly restorative check-in, as I said. This is the brainchild of Marisol Queveda Rerucha, a comadre, a sister, somebody that I love dearly. So the way that I interpret her conception of the show is that Fridays are to check in with your people, right? If I think about what I want to be doing on a Friday, I want to be relaxing. I want good food. I want to be with somebody that I care about. And it's that time for parents, caregivers, educators, right? All of us to have that one person that really asks us how we're doing and how the week went. And also, I think more than anything, we have the time to be able to respond thoughtfully, kind of without stress and pressure about what we have to do the next day. No, that's not everyone's reality, but that's my wish for you anyway. So, Marisol brought me on to her show originally because I'm a hypnotherapist, a psychologist, and an educator. And on that first show, I taught a breath pattern titled 478. So I'm going to maintain the integrity of the show that Marisol hosts on Mondays and Wednesdays. And we're going to do 478. So for those of you that are new to it, you hold your breath for four. So wait, start all over. I'm already messing you all up. You inhale. You should probably start by breathing. You inhale for 4 seconds. You hold your breath for 7 seconds. And then you exhale for 8 seconds. And you do that 4 times around. Something kind of a special instruction I want to give you all is when you're exhaling for those 8 seconds, it's almost like you're holding your breath while exhaling at the same time. 8 seconds is a long time. What I want to say is don't do a breath dump. Don't just exhale all the way out because you'll exhale in 2 or 3 seconds and you really want to try to hold it for that 8 second count. So I'll count us out or count you along and guide you. I always recommend that you kind of have a focal point. Ideally, close your eyes, but if for some reason that's not comfortable, you can look down at your lap, look at the floor, right? Whatever feels good to you. Some ideas of ways that you can use this breath pattern. It's actually it has research behind it as far as helping you to go back to sleep. So if you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't rest well, try this breath pattern. Remember to do it 4 times, and that should help you return to sleep. Marisol states that this breath pattern helps her when she's having trouble with her sleep. I use it as a transition. So as I'm going from one meeting or one thing to the next and I have to focus myself, that's the way that I use it. So anyway, it's good to experiment with it. So, all right, you guys always know I have to kind of get myself settled because it takes some energy out for me to introduce myself and greet you all. And now I have to bring that back in. There I go. Okay. So I'm going to encourage you all to just take your natural breath, right? Inhaling in through your nose, out through your mouth. And on your next inhalation, take it in for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, release. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Go back to your natural breath because I had to yawn that whole time. So I was struggling with my yawn. So usually I can identify how you all are doing based on how I feel, but I don't know how that was for you. Like I said, it's a breath pattern that takes practice. I often share that the first time I did it, I actually did not enjoy this breath pattern. I felt like my breath was all cut up. But then after I practiced it, I actually got a lot of help and enjoyment out of it. All right, so let me continue to kind of introduce myself and kind of pull up our energy a tiny bit. Hopefully you feel like you've arrived. I've talked to you about who I am professionally. I want to introduce myself both personally and as far as my community goes. So I'm originally from Southern California. My father is Afro-Cuban or was Afro-Cuban, and so we are Taino and Arawak. My mom's from Guatemala, so we hail from Maya territory. Some of you have met or at least seen my siblings. They've been guests on the show. I'm also a mom to a beautiful 20-year-old daughter. She's going to be 21 soon. That trips me out every time I say it. And I'm a widow, which is another really important identity. I'm also a member of the Siwa Pali Collective. So some of you have also encountered some guests from the collective on this show. In fact, there's been several, more than I can even state. The collective focuses on Indigenous mothering. We like to say that we support Indigenous women or mothers and their families from womb to tomb. All right, so enough with who I am. But again, I like to fully introduce myself so that you have an understanding of where I come from and just provide you with, for me, culturally, is a proper introduction. So before we bring in on our guests, I just want to remind you all to go to the NPU website to become a member if you haven't already done that. Membership is free. You just have to give just some of your demographics and your email addresses so that we can contact you. I would say the biggest benefit of becoming a member is that you get to learn information about what is occurring with NPU before or earlier than you might just by following us on Facebook. All right, so let's bring in my friends, dear friends. I'm so happy and excited. I don't even know if you guys can tell. I'm always excited for everyone, but I'm really excited for Dr. Carolyn Pepper and Mr. Brian Stevens. And I feel like silly introducing my friends because I just want to laugh with them. But let me try to do it. So Carolyn, she's a licensed clinical psychologist. She's the Associate Director of Counseling Services at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. She is a registered yoga and mediation instructor. Brian is an Army veteran with 15 years experience with his career and working in various clinical and administrative roles, all within federal healthcare delivery services. Together, they're also parents to 2 teenage boys and a fur baby. Brian, Carolyn, hello. How are you guys?
Hi.
It feels weird to be formal. I just want to I don't know, just tell a joke with y'all or something.
Yeah.
We'll get to a deeper check-in later, but I just want, quickly, how are you guys? How are things going?
Good.
No,
it's 2020.
It's 2020, right? I think it's both, right? Things feel hard. Everything feels hard. But also we're okay, and our immediate family for the most part is okay. So that feels,
Yeah, we're much
good.
more fortunate than some, and I mean, could be worse, but it could be not 2020. And
But yeah, the weight of it all is very
yes.
Felt in our homes, in our work, everywhere.
And I know that we will get there in conversation, and it's just it feels awkward to just not greet you all, right, and to just see how you all are. But I want to appreciate just how honest you're being and already starting us off with just real discussion, right, about the vulnerability of what's going on. And I know you shared your family's really impacted by a lot of things right now. Before we kind of maybe get into some questions, I described you all professionally and, you know, gave a couple of personal parts of facets of who you are. Is there
show the dog?
What's that?
Where we show the dog?
If you would like to, but the point is, go ahead and introduce yourselves if there's anything that I left out or other parts of yourself that you want the audience to know.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, Carolyn Pepper. No, I mean, you gave the professional piece. Yeah, I think it's just one of the many hats, right? And then being your wife, right? Fairly new wife still.
Are you checking?
Say again.
I said, are you checking to see if they're the wife? Go ahead. I'm kidding.
Just checking.
We got the marriage certificate.
We just got it,
Yeah,
like
we just
a week ago. So we weren't sure.
I was there. Okay.
Right.
It's
all of the pieces, right? So that's just one piece that has a lot of facets. But then, yeah, being your partner, being a parent, being a daughter, being a friend, all of those things holding at once, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about you, Brian? Who else are you?
I have a lot of different hats, but really, I mean, I think my favorite hat is just within the family, and raising two teenagers is a challenge, and 2020 has not made that easy by any stretch. But you know, I think that's probably my biggest identity is with our friends and family, and you know, I'm the one that's going to make all the bad jokes, and
We're big on dad jokes.
Yeah,
big.
I put my shell toes on and my cargo shorts and make my dad jokes. That's
is that an example right there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But sorry. Okay, you guys, hold on. So normally I ask you all a question about, you know, just how you're doing, but I actually think the audience needs to know how we know one another, because I think the three of us are probably struggling a little bit to just even
it feels like a hidden secret. Okay.
Yeah, to maintain a semblance of a professional conversation, because like the level of friendship here is just joke upon joke upon joke. And I'll share this, that I didn't feel nervous as I was doing my introduction, but I could feel you all watching me, and I was thinking of all the funny things you guys were thinking and doing in the background. So I almost like struggled to get through the introduction. All right, so let's just tell people how we know one another and how we met. Do y'all want to start that, or do you want me to? It's up to you.
Yeah, we knew each other first. Well, anyway, Anjali and I were cohort members on our doctoral internship at New Mexico State University. We met there and became fast friends and have stayed in each other's lives since then. And I'll say, like, a huge part of that year in my development as a person and as a professional was born out of our friendship. And I love you so much.
Thank you. That's so sweet. And yeah, I just want to like agree and acknowledge that like we have a very unique friendship. Like, and I think it was a friendship that even other people kind of looked at of like, what's going on, right? And I think that's really beautiful when people can see just this innate friendship that just started from pretty much day one or almost day one, as soon as we kind of opened up and got to know one another. And then, yeah, it's continued into beyond a post internship, which is now we're like 5-6 years out. And then somewhere along
15,
we were 15, yeah.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the line, Brian came in. I actually don't remember Brian. I remember the first day that I met you. I remember you in that year. Do you remember like the first time we met?
Was that when you cooked? I just remember the times that you cooked.
Spring break, I think. The boys' spring break when you and my dad and the boys came. I can't make salsa without it being asked. Is it like plays salsa.
Yes.
And like, I don't, well, did she tell you what to do? I'm like, well, I mean, I do kind of know how to make salsa, and then they don't eat it.
The hilarious thing is that, Carolyn, I didn't start making salsas until, so okay, we have to tell the background. So I don't remember what day of the week it was. I think it was Tuesday or Thursday. Was it? Do you remember? It doesn't matter. There was,
Game of Thrones?
what's that?
Game of Thrones watching?
No, we made salsa every week. Anyway, okay, we're getting lost in the salsa story, but we made salsa for ourselves, right? And
Thursdays, right?
I thought so. Anyway, that we worked for. But I wasn't a big salsa maker before that, but it's because you're a really good cook and you're really good at cooking Mexican food because you lived in Oaxaca. Yeah, Oaxaca for a while.
Cuernavaca. Traveled in Oaxaca. Was living in Cuernavaca, just south of Mexico City.
Gotcha. So I just got to be a good salsa maker that year, and then the rest is salsa history. So okay, so Brian, so you were hearing about me beforehand, and then I feel like I knew you the whole year, but I guess I didn't meet you until spring break.
Yeah, and it was
you didn't come down.
It was the same, because we were together, and then for that year she had to go to New Mexico, and I was here in Kansas, and worried about her. But then as soon as she started talking about this great Anjali, I felt really comfortable because it seemed like there was a soulmate down there just waiting for her. So that made me feel really, really comfortable. And then you cooked, and that was good. And you did an amazing job helping us plan our wedding and officiated our wedding. And that was really special and just great to be able to share that with you and us. And that was great. So
thank you. The wedding was so fun. So yeah, it was lovely to, like, that's how much you guys mean to me. You know what I mean? So it was lovely for me to be able to be a part of it. And to just, I don't know, to just know that I mean that much to you all, to hold that place in your life, because you guys have held that place in my life for so long already, like that closeness, that we feel. So, okay, mushy aside. Anyway, I'm trying to like hold myself and not do all these inside jokes. Okay. So, despite how close we are and all of the good feelings that we're experiencing right now, and sharing that, there is a lot of stuff going on in your lives that I think is so reflective of what's existing in the lives of others. And actually, before I turn and ask you to check in what's going on, I want to say some people are saying hi to you that I don't recognize. So I think
can I give a shout out?
Yeah, well, hold on. So Gabby Mitchell is saying hi. Melanie Hart Brenton is saying hi. Is that who you want to say hi to? Go for it.
Yeah. Mel, hi. I saw that pop up. That's freaking crazy. Glad you're here. Miss ya. Hope you're well.
The power of social media, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, guys. So tell us kind of what's going on in your world, how you all really are. You've alluded to the fact that there's a lot going on. How are you?
It's heavy, right? It's just heavy. And I think, I don't know, this is maybe one of the more challenging times I can think of in my life, feeling as an individual.
Yeah.
Within, I think, it's interesting with the backdrop of having recently, gotten married, and then all of this sort of came out. Brian was already working from home in his position prior to March, but after March, right, then I was working at home, just like everybody else, right? We're all working from home. Kids are schooling from home. Trying to keep them safe, keep our parents safe. It sort of feels like we're working on both ends. And just get through, right? And so COVID and politics and social unrest feels so heavy. And then, something happens with, your teenager, And it instead of like being out here with the world, you're like, boom, like, like I just have to deal with like the mess that's like in my house right now. I can't even get back out to those levels. And that I think has been a strange feeling of being pulled in, and then, you know, just kind of the day-to-day stuff of being a parent and an individual, right? Then kind of wanes, and then you're back looking at these things on a bigger scale that are going on.
Yeah, and I think that being out of routine, not just a daily routine, but just seasonally out of routine. You know, this was the first summer that the four of us weren't sweating out at the ball field, coaching
4 or 5 nights a week.
Yeah, coaching multiple teams, and you know, that really made the summer, you know, just kind of feel disappointing. And then, you know, just everything that's getting canceled as far as family traditions, you know, that we have, that we all enjoy. So it feels like everything kind of just closes in, and you don't have a lot of space to do what you want to do to be a family. And
I don't know if other people feel like this, like the way time has felt distorted, and both slow, but just a poor concept of time. And I think, like what Brian's saying, losing some of those markers, those sort of seasonal markers, those not happening, you sort of don't realize, right, that those summer months went by, and like September and October went by, and you weren't doing those things that you do kind of on that annual calendar. And so it feels weird.
I definitely, you know, a lot of us joke, right, about like COVID years, right, or COVID time. And yeah, like things don't make sense to me right now. Like, is it this day of the week or that day of the week? Even I think this week I was trying to give an example or a reference to earlier in the week, and I really couldn't. You know, I didn't know if it was Tuesday, Thursday, because like you said, everything feels the same. It's like the perpetual kind of Groundhog's Day in one way or another. And you know, I'm thinking too, as y'all were talking about the boys, the boys are really different in personality, and we've talked about.
We're about to get an interruption by said boy.
Said boy. Okay, that's okay. This is real life. But so let me. I'll cue up the story that I kind of want you all to share. The way that they're being impacted, right, academically. I know I was talking to you all about how you all had to make some difficult decisions, and maybe some different decisions for one child versus the other, as far as them getting back into school. So Brian, maybe you can tell us, like, give us ages of the boys, you know, whatever you all want to share. I want to maintain privacy, but ages of the boys so the audience understands. And I'm talking about like that decision-making process you all had to go through with schooling. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah. So our oldest, Matt, he'll be 17 in just a few weeks. He's sneaking up the stairs. Teenagers are not good at sneaking. And our youngest, Mike, is 13, just turned 13. And so the school, the school stuff has been, you know, and I feel bad for Matt. This is his junior year in high school, and he's not able to experience the typical junior year. We were talking about this the other night. I think my favorite year of high school was junior year, and you know, no dances and all of that kind of stuff, but just the regular stuff, either, you know, just going to a movie and all of that, just concerts. Yeah, that's just not there. And so it kind of feels like it's been cheapened. The virtual learning was I think,
again, I don't think this was unique to us, but I think we were in a position where we were really trying to figure out like academic health and psychological health and physical health, and trying to weigh all of those, you know, kind of against each other. Because especially with Matt being a junior, like this, like classes count, you know, kind of right now. There just felt like no good answer.
Well, and I know that Carolyn, you and I had talked about how, and I don't remember who it was. I think it was Matt versus Mike, but feeling like for one son that it was better for him to be in school, right? It was going to have a more detrimental effect if he wasn't, and for the other son that it was better that he could do okay at home. I can't imagine like how difficult of a decision that must have been for you all.
Yeah, just developmentally, right? Matt being a little older can create routine for himself a little bit easier than a 12-year-old at the time, now 13. But both were missing friends and get a better education, right, when they're in school. But yeah, it's just been scary, right? So sitting in that discomfort, kind of month after month and not knowing. And
yeah, and I think I always think about the parents that aren't as fortunate. Me having a work from home job and Carolyn being able to work from home for the most part of it. That really makes us much more fortunate to have kids that are going to school online. But there are a lot in our by Matt. There are a lot in our community that aren't as fortunate, and I see them and I talk to them. Some of them are my friends, and I see how frustrating it is for them to balance their jobs and all of that, and that just adds to the pressure. Seeing just people hurt. And not being able to find a balance, because it's a double-edged sword. We go all in, and we're in school and going to work face to face and all of that. And COVID gets worse, or we pull back, and that we have more problems with it. There's not a good answer. It feels like just kind of weighs heavy on me, I think.
Yeah, I do want to echo like the privilege pieces though, right? We have a home that's big enough where we can all spread out, and multiple internet systems where we could work, and we have older kids too, right? We're not, they can dress and feed themselves and for the most part stay on task. This is not elementary school kids. I think that would be a whole different level of difficulty.
And that's something that I appreciate so much about the both of you, of just your recognition of social justice issues, the emphasis actually that you place on teaching your kids about that, your boys, you're raising two young men, white young men. And I've always admired how important it is for you to raise them with kind of women's issues in mind, kind of ethno-racial issues in mind, just issues of power and privilege, period, So yeah, I don't know if I've ever said that to you.
We had a lot of difficult dialogues.
Yes, and I think that's another complicating factor of how we're living right now, since there isn't as much social in person. There's the social media, and I've tried to pull the kids back from social media as much, or not allow them to be as exposed, but it still filters through, and you hear a lot of things that don't line up with your values as a family. We're not afraid to have those discussions. But sometimes they get a little tense because what they hear from people with assumed authority or power, and they're cooler than
we are. Yeah.
Brian, yeah.
And trying to be louder than that, but with a message and educating. I think that's been difficult, and I think it's been difficult for the country. There's just a lot of misinformation that's out there, or whatever you want to call it.
And at 13 and 17, they just have no framework for how to sift through that. Yeah. I mean, we barely do, because that's so relatively new in our lives of consumers of media, right? But for them, that's kind of like all they know. Yeah.
Well, but I know that you all do a good job, but I also honor how taxing it probably is, right? And just to stay on top of it and when do I intervene? And then also, like you were saying, for the boys to know to whether or not they should bring something to you, should they even question it? That's a hard path that lots of parents are juggling with their kids
And
regardless of age. Good.
I know I struggle with, in the rest of, or in most of the rest of the venues in my professional life, I speak with some authority on those things, right? And I'm heard, and then I come home and, it's very different when you talk to kids. Yeah, and I know I get particularly hung up on that, and you do a much better job on that than I do. My ego gets in the way a little bit.
We could definitely make the show about psychologists, right? And, like therapists as parents. And yes, I hear you. I'm like, I kind of know what I'm talking about, but yeah. But I don't think that that's unique to any parenting situation.
No, I don't think so. And I do, to that point, I say often, being a psychologist does not in any way make me a better parent. It makes me a fearful parent, is what it makes me. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to open up my parenting skeletons. Yes, for sure. So it's scary. That's a great way of putting it. So let's segue a little bit into your work roles.
Can I do something real quick?
Yeah.
Hi, Kristen. It's good to see your name there. I miss you too.
So,
I have 0 fans.
Well, we still got 30 more minutes. We'll see what happens. And they might watch tomorrow. So y'all, if anyone is a fan of Brian's,
where's Mark?
Show him some love. Okay. All right. So let's segue into your careers, right? And I brought you onto the show because I think you all represent working with some really important populations. And when we think about being mental health practitioners, Carolyn, you're at a 4-year institution, right? So there's 2 special groups that I think are interesting to hear about from you. You're dealing with your college students, university students, but then you're also training professionals. So you're doing what we did when we met.
Yeah.
You're training psychologists that are at their final year that are going into the work world, but instead of meeting their clients face to face, which is the way we normally do things, right? Yeah. They're meeting virtually. So what are some of the biggest challenges that you're seeing?
Sure. I think in from like kind of the training role, I think we don't have the same level of cohort, right? So we have doctoral interns, and we also have doctoral students, practicum students, right? So pretty big cohort, and they never see each other. They've never all been on site at the same time. And so, right, like that feels so personal to me just from our story of what those cohort relationships can do for you personally and professionally. Mm-hmm. And being in the role that I'm in, I bring that piece of my own experience in to really try to foster a cohort experience and cohesion. And it's not that, it's not that at all.
And I want to define, cohort and doctoral and practicum students just for the audience. I mean, basically think about it of a group of people that started together, and are co-training. Think of it as a team. The team experience is lacking. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that is the bigger piece even than the clinical work. I had not provided teletherapy before March. I have been pleasantly surprised. I think it's a lot less different than I had feared. There's absolutely an advantage from a social justice perspective in terms of folks not needing to worry about childcare or time off work, or if you're in a more rural area trying to get to my office, that's all pretty great. But apart from the training cohort, just as a staff, I think lots of people are dealing with the work we do is hard, and the work relationships have changed in that we don't see each other. And if we are on site, our doors are closed. A colleague was talking, the other day that it feels like a hotel at times, right? People are kind of there. You're not sure where. They're behind doors. You don't really see them. And we really, especially I think in my work culture, we really use those relationships to bolster, to offset the difficult work. That's the biggest thing I felt, right? And both as a staff person, but then also how that kind of trickles down to the trainees.
And I think that's so important, not only for individuals who are mental health practitioners, but I'm positive that medical professionals are experiencing the same thing. Now, they maybe have a little bit more day-to-day contact with one another, but certainly they're not, they're busy as all get out right now, but I don't think they're sitting there going and hanging out and having the aftercare part, right? Go have a beer, go chill out, go, engage in your kind of barbecue, right, where you let off steam, and get that support. What about some of the students, Carolyn? So are presenting problems changing at all? So I want to set the stage too, for those who don't know, that the service that colleges and universities play for providing psychological services is probably pretty, I would say, like undervalued and misunderstood. And I'm not saying that anyway to like beef you up. I remember the times that I was in that space that I didn't realize the magnitude, and what people fail to sometimes realize is that it's the age group where some pretty severe psychological issues will pop up. It's the age where there is so much transition. Transition brings up a lot of potential dormant mental health issues. And so we don't give enough value. We only pay attention to the psychological services provided at colleges and universities when there's a huge problem. And then that's the only time we talk about it. So that's why I'm asking, what are any of the presenting problems changing for what you're saying for students?
No, not really. And I'll add, my student population in particular has a really high number of non-traditional age college students, a lot of veterans. So we skew a little higher. I think our mean age is around like 26 or 27. UMKC also has a really large kind of professional program, School of Dentistry, School of Medicine, School of Nursing, Music Conservatory. So post-grad, like students, also. No, that said, it's exacerbating, right? It's exacerbating things that were already kind of there. It's limiting resources and tools that people maybe already kind of knew or cultivated to take care of themselves. They can't go out, right, and like do those things or interact with friends. Kind of maybe in the same way. I feel often maybe more surprised at how little we maybe talk about COVID or political climate or aspects of racial violence. It definitely comes up and has been present. But then it's kind of like what I was saying before, life, it keeps kind of trucking along, right? So even in my private practice, right? Sometimes those elements are there, and sometimes it's the regular stuff that people are always seeking services around.
Yeah. I appreciate that, and it's good to know, and I'm glad that it's not worse. But I also hear you on just what's already there, kind of coming up to the surface, and I actually maybe more quickly or in a sharper way, harsher way. I actually think that's like what 2020 is about, right? Us having to kind of just sit and let all the stuff rise to the surface that we maybe tried to ignore. Brian, I want to think about also the populations, right, that you work with. So you've been working with veterans for 15 years. Are you seeing any differences or changes with some of the things that vets are presenting with?
I think, in the veteran population, I have to put a plug out. If you're a veteran and you're watching, if you haven't enrolled in VA healthcare, please go ahead and do that. The services that are provided are great. You hear a lot of negative things, and if you haven't experienced it, go out and and experience it. It has difficulties, just like any healthcare system has difficulties. But the VA trains, and a lot of people don't know this, but every year over 100,000 doctors, social workers, psychologists, nurses train at a VA, to either stay in the VA system or to go out into the community. And the hospitals are actually funded by the amount of veterans that walk through the door. So you're not taking anybody's space by going in and doing that. I think this time, and I can't speak for all veterans, but I think this time does put a heaviness on veterans, just just being out of routine, and seeing the discord in the world and in the country. And I think that maybe picks, it does for me, I'll speak for me, it picks at me probably a little bit more, just given my history, and a lot of my veteran friends and people that I've worked with share that. And so I think that makes it just a little bit more difficult. And then working in healthcare, like I have done, you see the numbers on the news, and that's one thing, or you see it on social media or whatever. But when you're working in healthcare and you're seeing people, or you're seeing numbers that, it really hits close to home that they're not numbers, that they're people. And that's a lot of people. I think when you work in healthcare, and especially in administration, that really hits hard, and you want to make sure that you're doing the most that you possibly can to make the biggest impact. That's what I try to do, but it feels like I'm trying to tread water in the ocean, and that just compounds everything that's going on, with home and family life and all that.
Yeah, the magnitude of everything that we're facing. You said, I just want to make sure that I understand that the discord is really picking at you personally, and you intimated that might be the case for other vets. Can you just say a little bit more about, are you just saying literally the divisiveness in the country, or other things?
Well, so I'm sure I'm not the only veteran that is in social media groups that are other veterans, and those are very interesting groups to be in. But the tenor has changed over the last couple of years, and especially as of late. And so there are people that I actually am close to that have a very different view than I have, but we still have worn the uniform together, and I know who that person is, and so that really kind of picks at my soul that I can't agree with you here, and I don't like that you don't see it my way. And at times it doesn't even feel like you can have a conversation about that without it going a direction that you don't want to go, or that you lose a friend over this divisiveness. I don't. It hasn't helped.
Yeah, I was saying it's tenuous. I hear that. Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure. I don't want to assume that I was understanding or not. Yeah, and I think that that's true for so many of us. I've been thinking about kind of future shows, and that we need a show on like kind of how we come back together, because even within our own families, right, we're experiencing kind of different points of view and then not having to come back together. Yeah, that's resonating. Yeah, in fact, my brother-in-law here, Brian, Caesar, he's saying that he knows how you feel. Carolyn, you wanted to comment or no?
Oh, I just agree.
Well, okay, so cool. Let's, I want us to kind of move into the telemedicine aspect, because Brian, that's actually one of the points, I think of professional points where you and I remember back in New Mexico, really vibed a lot, because veterans, right, services do a really good job. I would say they're the leaders, right? That's what we used to talk about, the leaders in providing telehealth. And so I've been interested, like, in talking to you about what you think about licensure. And so let me give context, you all. For so many years, decades, right, the conversation has been like, no, we can't see people across state lines, right? Our licenses as mental health practitioners are for particular states. And now that COVID and this pandemic has hit, we can see anyone anywhere, right? That's not an issue. So I'm just wondering, like, what your take is on what we're seeing, given the fact that, like, you're an advocate for telemental health. Veteran Services uses telemental health so much on the way that services are being delivered.
Yeah, I think it's great. And you hear about government bureaucracy and red tape and all of that. This is one situation where it is very different. So the DoD, the military, they have been seeing clients across, in the battle zones with a therapist here. And obviously, you're not going to get a psychologist that got their degree in Afghanistan. And so they, wrote their regulations to support working across borders, and the VA adopted that very quickly. And so that isn't an issue. And recently they have created virtual positions for psychologists and psychiatrists. That's all they do is virtual. And a good friend of mine lives here in the area, and I think she actually works for Pittsburgh and does telemedicine there. The VA has had this technology for a very long time, and tried hard to get it going, and I wish that it was used more, a lot more before COVID, so it wouldn't have been a big shock. But it's been publicly reported that there's been a huge increase in the utilization of it. I use it, televideo for my care, even though I live 5 minutes away from the facility. I still choose to use it. It's there, and it's great. It works. And I think, as far as licensure and the civilian sector, I would definitely like to see more working together, and it not be revenue generated. That opens up and provides more access to mental health services for folks using tele. I think we're all getting used to looking at screens and talking to a camera. So this is, I think, maybe a silver lining of 2020, that maybe this is that push that the country needed to move in that direction and be able to provide that.
I agree, and that's my hope. That for not just for psychology, but for other services, I would say even for working world, there's so much for some, right? There's so much humanity that you're able to be a human at work, right? I was talking about that earlier today. You're able to be a human at work by working at home, and I think we're learning some structures that we believed could not exist in a virtual format are existing. And I know it's also not working for everyone else, right? So there are some people in some scenarios where in person is better, but I just really hope that we maintain somewhat of this hybridized model, right? And just more options. more of time. And so I also want to make sure that we get into kind of some other parts of who you are. And because we have you all, the two of you, some suggestions for how people can take care of themselves. So Carolyn, you're also a yoga instructor. So let's talk about the wellness practices that you practice yourself and or encourage others to utilize and incorporate in their life.
Sure. Yeah. It's nothing new, right? It's all the stuff we already knew about having to take care of ourselves. I just think it's now more than ever just really necessary to be able to feed yourself first, to take care of yourself first, because the demands, are so kind of intense right now. The way I sometimes think about it is if you ask someone, is self-care important? No one's going to say no to that, right? People say like, yeah, of course. And okay, well, what do you do to take care of yourself? Oh, I don't know. I don't have time, right? Like right. There's a disconnect between the awareness that this is something important and then the ability to sort of deliver on it. And I know something that helped me make that change was thinking about holding time for myself the same way I hold time for others. So the way I would hold time for a client, for you, for a friend, for my parents. I'm not going to cancel, right, on you, so I don't cancel on myself. And once that was internalized, then it became a lot easier to figure out kind of what those things are. And I also think it's important to remember that self-care, it can be yoga or going for a run or taking a bath, but it's also like making your dental cleaning appointment and, like things that are not glamorous, right? But are part of, kind of taking care of yourself, right? Physical, spiritual, whole self, body, right? Then come out a sphere, taking care of your home, your family, right? Like what those things are. When you take care of yourself first, then you can be the best partner, parent, friend, whatever.
And I want to attest to that. As long as I've known you, you have been somebody who really prioritizes your self-care, and like, and and just make sure that you are well. And I admire that. I like that you're able to say like, no, I actually kind of need to take care of myself this day. I set aside Saturday morning to whatever, go for a run or get a massage. So it's just, you've always been a good example in that way. Brian, what about you? What about like what self-care practices do you have or do you advise?
I think routine. So especially making the transition from working an office job to working from home. I know that when I am, just kind of getting out of bed and walking down to the office and turning on the computer and going through my day that way, that if I continue to do that, I can kind of feel myself decline in emotional and just physical well-being, that when I'm in my normal routine, just get up, take a shower and, get ready for the day, even though, I may not see anybody other than my dog and, other people that come by. That's still important. And so the shortcuts that you get created in this, the time of the pandemic, those shortcuts seem like good ideas, but they just kind of shortcut your own emotional health. I truly believe so. I think that's the biggest thing is just to be in a routine and stick with that routine. It's like being discharged from the Army all over again. You are used to more structure than you could ever dream of, to finally being free. But then, you wish that you wish that you would have stayed with some of that structure.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Do you think it's harder for men? Do you think there's a gender component to self-care and to asking for time?
Probably. Yeah. It is for me. Yeah.
So yeah, I understand, but let's make sure that, our audience is getting it. So like basically, Carolyn, you're asking, asking Brian, do men have a harder time taking care of themselves? What generated that question? Why do you think that's a thing?
Lived experience a little bit, right? Yeah, I think that's present in our own dynamic. Yeah, I mean, gender stereotype stuff, right? About I think women struggle with it too, right? Because that's like, oh, I'm being selfish. If I take time for myself, I'm being selfish. I don't know if that same idea of selfishness is what plays for men. I hear women talk about that a lot. I think maybe gender stereotypes tweak the barrier. But yeah, I think stuff gets in the way, and I could see, right? Like it's okay for everybody else, but I don't. I can't do that, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I know personally, I don't like going to bed until everybody is in their rooms, devices are off as much as they can be, and everything is just closed down, and then I can go to bed. I need everybody else to wind down before I can, and then sometimes I have the hard time of then winding down.
And that's some you, but I do think there's a gender piece there too, right? Like how we talk about who men are, who fathers are, right? Like I think that's in there.
And actually, the way that y'all are talking about things, it's reminding me as well of like fostering and tending to your marriage, which is, and I'm going to say your relationship really, because I don't know if we, made this clear, like, yes, y'all are recently married, but you were together for 10 years before that, right? So, ish, yeah, I know. Fingers and toes. But anyway, so the point is, y'all were an established family. But what's that like? Because I'm recognizing too, I was like, oh, that's not my experience right now, of like having to tend to a relationship during this time frame. How has that shifted or been different?
I mean, we definitely spend more time together.
I see you so much more.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another bit of silver lining. Like I see you so much more.
Right. But
it's nice.
But I think it's important.
We share an office.
We share an office. But I also think, it gets rid of this setup gets rid of the spontaneity of a relationship a lot of times. So I try to throw more of that in there, whatever I can, whether it's a little sticky note or something. Because you don't get the hey, I'm home, and we joke around. We come up
from the basement like I'm home,
But you don't have that anticipation of waiting for somebody, knowing you got the text, I'm on my way,
And you've always been spontaneous, like, oh, let's go do that. Let's and we can't go anywhere.
We don't have a lot of that, but we are gonna go to a concert tomorrow online.
We're gonna live stream a concert.
We're gonna go Foo Fighters. Yes.
That's good physical distancing while enjoying yourself. Now, you could have spontaneously booked the concert. Did you do that, or was it?
He did. He texted me and said, "Do you have plans tomorrow night at 7?" So yeah, he kind of did.
But I'm gonna need better speakers before that.
We'll get the sound all hooked
I think
up.
I need better ones.
Yeah, I think there's moments where I just try to get singular in my focus and just see you and like, this is good. And like, shit's, can I say that? Stuff's rolling down. Sorry.
You're good.
I know. Do I get a fine? Is that like
no,
an
she gets
FCC?
the
Oh,
fine.
okay. Yeah, everything's falling down sometimes, right? It feels like that. But like this is solid and this is good. And if I just look here, I'm all right. It's gonna be fine. Let's try again tomorrow.
I can imagine that relationship strong. You all have a solid relationship, a strong relationship, but that it's easy to kind of feel like, oh, I'm with you all the time. We're okay. We're together. But to miss the intentionality, the spontaneity, the things that make it special, right? That were there, that were present before, like you said, because there was a coming and going, a receiving, oh, this is the special time because I haven't seen you all day long. So yeah, thank you for even kind of bringing that up, because I'm sure we're speaking to the I don't know, the experience. I was gonna say the challenges, but the experience, right, of many couples right now. And then I feel, I genuinely feel for people who aren't in experiencing a good relationship, or their challenges again are coming up and revealing themselves. And then there's not a lot of places to go, you know. There's not a lot of distance, as much as all of us here, right, are for probably people confronting their challenges. We don't want people to do it like that, right? We don't want them to be forced to have to confront everything all at
There's
once.
nowhere else to go. Yeah.
Yeah, like ideally would be in stages, or and voluntarily, you know, like you would want to work on your stuff instead of things just popping up and then there's no choice and you have to work on it. So, yeah. I feel like we could do a whole nother hour with
I
you.
was just thinking we could go another 2 hours, like no sweat. Yeah. Now you got somewhere to go. You know?
It's a hot date. Some sort of concert he's got to go to. Okay, so Carolyn, I want to throw up your website, so I'm going to do that right now, in the chat, so if people want to reach you. Also, you're going to see it come up several times because of all the
Psychology Today profile.
I don't have a website.
I know this, but yeah, I don't know. They can reach you through your email address, right? That's streaming across the bottom of the page there. So there's multiple ways for you all to reach out to Brian and Carolyn if you would like.
And especially if you're a veteran, or if you love a veteran, and you're having difficulty navigating that system, I always love to help my fellow veterans. So send me an email, and I'll see what I can do to kind of point you in the right direction. I know a little about something.
You know about a lot.
I'll stick with a little about something. Just kidding. Sorry, guys. This is all day long, and actually, Brian's being really good at not zinging me probably because I'm the host.
I don't want you to get fined. I thought I was going to be the one to drop a profanity. So.
It could have been worse. Let's be real. It could have been way worse. Okay.
No. Oh my gosh. Okay. I just want to say thank you and just tell you guys how much I love you guys. And please say hi to the boys, to your parents. I'm going to keep them in mind. I know that there's some challenges going on with them. It's just so good to see you all. And actually, I want to bring in one important piece of the story of that. To me, the last time, you're really the last trip I made, and you're the last like kind of real gathering I've been to. So your wedding was literally days before the world shut down. In fact, I had traveled out of country and I was moving around, and I made it, you know, to your state. And I was there worrying if I should kind of get myself home sooner, because
I had to keep you forever because you weren't going to be allowed back to Arizona.
Or I was gonna have to drive like from Missouri, you know, or Kansas City. Yeah, no. So I don't know. It's just, you know, it's just special, and it also feels so long ago in these COVID years as well. But yeah, you guys are the last people that I saw. Your wedding was the last event. Big event.
We hear that a lot. People will say your wedding, it's the last like photos we have, like that we've taken on our phone, or especially then over the summer, this was the last like haircut that I had was, you know, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Have a great evening. Thank you for joining me. I want to say goodbye and thank you to everyone in the audience. Just have a great weekend. Take care of yourself. I hope that you'll implement, right, some of the strategies that you've heard here. And as always, I hope that you'll join me next week. On Monday, Marisol will continue with the nightly restorative check-in. So have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.